This is Ryan. He started out with just $600 and walked away with over $5 million in cash, all by the age of 29.
You don't need many views or likes in order to get a lot of customers. My audience is small. I do not have a lot of pull, but I've built a multi-million-dollar business from it.
But what's crazy is it wasn't from going viral or launching dozens of products. It all came down to getting one thing right: who he was selling to. And in this conversation, he shares exactly how to figure that out.
I help blank achieve blank. I help this group of people make this transformation. The minute you decide that, all of the products are just effortless.
But what's most interesting about Ryan is that he still uses the same exact formula to launch high margin businesses in 2025. He uses the same proven playbook that he literally wrote the book for.
To the average ordinary person starting out with nothing, they can build $1 million business in about 12 months. And this is applicable not just to selling physical stuff. This is also true for softwares. This is true for services. This is true for anything.
In this video, I sat down with Ryan and he shares exactly how to reverse engineer a product that sells itself, the power of small aligned communities for revenue and retention, and the steps to launch profitable businesses without raising money or overcomplicating the model. As always, the tools and resources from this interview and all the interviews we've done on this channel are all linked below in the description. Let's dive in. You literally wrote the book 12 months to $1 million. You have all these really good frameworks and ways for people to find products and to think about how to scale to that point in just 12 months. Can you share more about that playbook?
We break this into 8 steps. The 8 steps are: choose your customer, build an email list, launch, get 100 reviews, get to 25 sales a day, build an ambassador list, launch more products, and get to 100 sales a day. We can break that down into 3 phases. The 3 phases are the grind, the growth, and the gold. The grind is just getting a darn sale. All the decisions that you need to make of who your person's going to be, what you're going to sell, how you're going to bring it to market. That takes 3 to 4 months to just sit down and do the work of, this is what I'm going to sell. This is what my brand name is going to be. This is what the logo is going to be. This is my strategy. This is how I'm going to bring it to market. This is all of those annoying decisions. They take 3 to 4 months so that you can take a darn sale. After you take a darn sale, then the process is just building the systems to get it to a consistent 25 sales a day. And that takes another 2 to 4 months in a lot of cases. But if we know that we can get one product to 25 sales a day, it's kind of like building a road. It takes a lot of engineering and planning and capital to put one car on the road, because you got to build the entire infrastructure for there to be one car. But once it's built, you just put another car and another car and another car and another car and another car. You can just keep going until there's a traffic jam. And that's where the 3rd phase, the gold, comes in. Then our process is to launch additional products. We've already got the road to 25 sales a day. Now we can put car 2, 3, 4, and launch additional products so we have a business that's doing over 100 sales a day. If your price point is as low as $30 at 100 sales a day is $3,000 a day, $90,000 to $100,000 a month. That's just over $1 million business. So that's the process of what it looks like for somebody who is starting from nothing to build $1 million business. If you already have a skill set, or if you're a blogger and you got an audience, or a YouTuber, or you have a skill set from another business, it can happen a lot faster than 12 months. But to the average ordinary person starting out with nothing, they can build $1 million business in about 12 months. Now, for 6 months, it feels like nothing's happening, because you're just making decisions, you're getting your first sale, and then 5 months in, you're like getting 10 sales a day, like nothing's happening. But after 6 months, when you've got the roadmap to 25 a day, then we can duplicate that much faster, and we can get to 100 sales a day in about a year.
So you sold it for $16 million. How did you start it?
Started it with $600 and a business partner. I made my cash flow business being kind of your traditional internet marketer. Search engine optimization, Google ads, affiliate marketing, learning email marketing. I had a bit of a skill set, and most entrepreneurs build around a primary skill set. If you run an agency, you're basically renting that skill set out to clients, but you have a core skill set that you've monetized. What I discovered for me was that when I took that skill set and I applied it to a business with potential enterprise value, that became a much more valuable skill set. It's kind of like I have all these problems in my business at any given time. And I have all these reference points for all the things that I did in the past that worked or didn't work. But if I go consult with a friend, all I see is the opportunities that they can't see. And it's fun for me to go in and play around with my skill set and how much it impacts their business. I can have $1 million swing in their business in like 4 hours. It's so fun. But we ignore that in our own skill sets. And I discovered that I had this skill set of learning how to take a sale on the internet, how to get rankings on Google and other search engines, and how to sell stuff. And if I applied that to a pretty boring business, for me it was e-commerce, that felt like taking a flamethrower to a knife fight, because all these other businesses didn't have that skill set. They were just trying to live off the cash flow of selling stuff. And so just like it's fun to consult with a friend that doesn't have your skill set, I like to take those primary skill sets and apply them to other businesses that I'll own. And that's where the enterprise value gets generated.
Right. And you discovered this for yourself once you got a check for $60 million, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But when you were, prior to you discovering this, like, how did you start just with $600?
The business that I started with a partner was a supplement company, and it's called Sheer Strength. And he and I were both hard gainers at the time. And that means you have a hard time putting on muscle. And we wanted to be bros at the gym. We took that skill set, and he had a similar skill set of internet marketing. And we just said, okay, what if we apply this to a completely different business and we sell stuff? We sell physical stuff. And at the time, Amazon FBA was brand new. And I don't think entrepreneurs today realize how big of a deal that was in the entire internet entrepreneurial landscape. This was the first time that you could have most of your logistical operations just handled by somebody that was way better than you. The equivalent would be if ChatGPT just got customers for you. It just found a way to get customers, and now you can just invent whatever you want. It's that equivalent of a breakthrough in the internet entrepreneurial landscape. So we took our skill set of getting attention and building email leads and ranking for keywords, and we ported that over to this growing platform, which was Amazon. If people don't know, supplements are the biggest category, even to this day, on Amazon. And we were early and had good timing, and we were able to rank for keywords and had really good cash flow. And we started a business that we wanted with products that we took and believed in and genuinely advocated for. And over 4 years, we went from ordering 100 units at $6 and selling them for $25 to having a business that was doing $1 million a month in top line revenue, about 3-point-something million in cash flow. And we got an offer from a private equity group at a 5x multiple, which put us right at 16 million.
And at that point, that was sort of your aha moment of, oh, I understand enterprise value now.
No, it wasn't then. I didn't realize that until the private equity group bankrupted the business. So I'm at the closing table for this deal, and I still think I'm an idiot entrepreneur that has no idea what he's doing, and these big rich dudes are going to know how to scale this business. Because all I knew how to do was sell stuff. All I knew was to generate a profitable business and to scale to about 10 million. That's all I had ever done. These were the smart guys who are going to be able to scale this to 50 or 100 million. These are the dudes that are going to go raise capital, and they're going to bring in partnerships and a CEO from PepsiCo. Wow. This is the thing that's really going to show me how the big game of business is played. And 2 years later, they bankrupted the company. That is when I was like, wait a minute. I think I might be good. I think I might have a skill set. It was only, I think all entrepreneurs have some imposter syndrome that comes up. Like even today, put me in the right room and I feel like an idiot. And that humility forces us to figure things out. But at some point you realize, wait, I'm better than most people at this. That's when I was like, okay, this skill set changes businesses. This provides enterprise value, but not until that moment.
Yeah. And I've heard you draw the distinction in the very initial phase over figuring out who, not what. Can you explain that concept and why it's so important?
I made most of my money in e-commerce, and in e-commerce, there's this obsession over what I'm going to sell. What am I going to, what is my product going to be? What's a good product? Have other people done this before? And they get into this rabbit hole of what the product is going to be. I take a different approach, and this comes from having a little bit of a marketing background before I got into the e-commerce space. And that's choosing who the customer is going to be first. When I became a dad, I was 26 or 27 years old. And the minute that I became a dad, I started buying things that I never would have thought that I would buy. I thought that strollers were like an annoying thing that the breeders pushed up the handicap ramp. And now I'm a dad and I'm looking at strollers, like the turning radius on that thing is amazing. You can go to 0 to 6 miles an hour in 6 seconds. I mean, the things that you see when you go on a different journey are like you're looking at a new world. And at that point in the journey, you're not just buying one product. We bought this expensive machine called the Snoo that rocks your baby to sleep, and shush machines, and we've got different blankets. We're buying all kinds of things. What I realized is that if you know the person and the transformation they're on, they'll buy a ton of products during that transformation. That sort of de-stresses the mental pressure of what am I going to sell? This one thing has to work. This has to take off. Well, no, it doesn't. I invested in a company called Outstanding Foods, and their first product was a vegan bacon chip. It didn't go well. Was a plant-based pork rind. It was excellent. And that got them into retail stores all over the place. And then their third or fourth product had an egg ingredient that was really special that other companies wanted to license. Their product wasn't bacon chips. Their person was the plant-based community. And that's a very different approach that I think is much more effortless and gives you a much longer vision for how you're going to grow this business. Because if the first product doesn't take off, you still got customers. And that same group of customers is going to buy your next thing. And if that doesn't work out, you get additional customers and they'll buy the next thing. So if you're committed to a person rather than committed to selling a product, you can pivot and still do extremely well. It'll take you longer, but you still have the staying power and you have that runway that is necessary in order to build a multi-million-dollar business.
You could tell you're a really good marketer. My guess is that you're a really good copywriter as well. You did write a book because you really understand the customer's perspective and their core emotions, such as pain, which ultimately drives purchase decisions and these like psychological triggers. What you're describing, and I've heard you describe before, of take a blue blocker glasses company who's just like, oh, we're just blue blockers. And your point was, don't just be a blue blocker glasses company, be a sleep company or a light company. And to me, the takeaway is a lot of people want to talk about their features, and the adage is like the features tell, benefits sell. By choosing who your customer is, you're automatically sort of putting the features secondary and then zooming in on the benefits.
I think about it like the journey the customer is on. The hero's journey that was so popular that pretty much every big movie is based off of is a character who has a call to adventure, meets a mentor along the way, and that mentor helps them navigate challenges and problems. We think of ourselves as entrepreneurs as the hero of the story. But if you can make the customer the hero of the story and your business is the mentor, then your job is to help that customer navigate through their own challenges. Those challenges are your product opportunities. So the first product may look completely different than the second product because the first challenge is completely different than the second challenge. So if you can help that customer navigate through those problems and challenges, then you'll be in business for a long time.
One of the questions that the audience loves is like, if you were to, get rid of everything you're doing today, what would you do from scratch? And I think sometimes a better question is just, what are you doing today? Because that's literally what you would be doing. So people might be watching this and thinking, well, I'm really into AI and solopreneur, don't want to grow a big company. What do you think the opportunity is today in 2025 and beyond?
Well, first, let me address the first part of the question, which is I would ask, who do you want to help? Who do you want to serve? So when I had the opportunity to buy back my supplement company, I wasn't sure I wanted to do it. I'm not 25 anymore. A better desire for me is that I want to be a healthy dad, that I want to be a fit grandpa, that I want to be running around with lots of energy in the playground when my kids have kids. And I changed the avatar, or the target market, from hard gainers at the gym to people like me who wanted to age well and be in reasonably good shape for a really long time. And all of a sudden the energy came back to run that company again. And I have a real heart for fatherless homes. Like that's the thing. Like if I talk about it, I'll start crying. And to think about helping other dads stay around for longer, that gave me the drive to want to do it again. So the question that I think is better than what would you do if you lost everything is, if you lost everything, who do you want to serve? Because I guarantee you that you can monetize that. I guarantee you that if you're providing genuine value for this group of people, that there's things that they want to buy that you have a unique way to be able to provide. And it's that juice that we're all looking for. That's the real freedom. When you can find that juice, find that energy, find that spark, and infect everything that you do, that's where you're powerful. It's not by choosing the outside thing. It's finding where that spark is and then go giving that to the world. And that's where we can make so much money. We make so much money. What was the second part of your question?
The I guess
where the opportunity is.
Right.
So, e-commerce right now is just the ugly kid at the party. No one wants to be in e-commerce, and I love it right now. I think there is so much opportunity in e-commerce right now. When people are really freaked out, when people are getting crushed, this is where I think a calm, centered mindset wins. Right now, there's a lack of innovation in e-commerce for premium brands. If you go on Amazon right now, most of the people who are competing for keywords or for market share are cheap, crappy products with no brand and no customer loyalty. I am willing to suck at first until I've got the customer loyalty, and over a 5-year period, just clean up and build communities as part of it. Gary Vaynerchuk likes to say that you should think of yourself as a media company first, and then attorney or lawyer or agency or whatever. You're a media company first. I think that's 2019's game. Today, I think the play is you're a community first. You are community first, and then you're a lawyer, or you are a dentist, or you are an agency owner. You can take a community of 1,000 engaged people and win on Amazon. You can take a community of 1,000 people and win on TikTok Shop. You can take a community of 1,000 people and win on ClickBank, for goodness sake. You can take that engaged group and have that be profitable for many, many, many years. But that's why it's so important to have the person in mind first. And if you build a community of those people, we can launch products and have a really exciting business for a long time. I also think there's a great opportunity right now in buying distressed e-commerce businesses. The deal flow that I have right now for people who did well in the past and now have been humbled is I now can say no to a lot of deals and wait for the right pitch.
Right. And there's a few, I think, opportunities for marketing agency owners to attach themselves with some of these aspects, which we'll talk on too. I guess for you mentioned you figured out, you're like, okay, I can do whatever I want to do. Who do I want to help? That's a big, important question for your own energy and alignment. You found this new attachment to fatherless homes and you got excited about that. How did you think through that for yourself, just to encourage other people for how do they figure out who, and then how do they grow those first 1,000 people in their community?
I very intentionally tell clients that the first step of the process is not to discover your who or discover your person. It's to choose your person. The minute you just choose, the ideas start flowing. So an example that I like to give is there's an influencer that I follow. Her handle is Strong Friends, and her audience is women who are doing CrossFit and doing basically bodybuilding for women. And so her product line, if she were to ever launch a physical products brand, would be protein. It would be hormone optimizers, it would be recovery drinks, it would be creatine, go on down the list. Well, then you take a completely different example would be if you were to start a brand today for divorced dads who are getting back into the dating market, completely different market. And their first challenge on their hero's journey is they should probably get in shape. So you now build this community of divorced dads who are going through their own transformation. And the first thing they need to do is get in shape. What you're going to sell them is protein, recovery drinks, hormone optimizers, creatine, and on and down the list. It's the exact same group of products. But if we mentally masturbate over who this person needs to be and come up with these complicated descriptions about, we're just going to stay in no man's land forever. Just pick a group. You know the answer to this question when you can simply say, I help blank achieve blank. I help this group of people make this transformation. The minute you decide that, all the products are just effortless. What's a transformation that you went through in your life that was kind of hard? And what did you buy during that transformation? That's a really good place to start. And this is applicable not just to selling physical stuff. This is also true for softwares. This is true for services. This is true for anything. Like, what did you go through that was hard? Sell that. Start there. And there will be other things that are necessary for that transformation as well.
So you've done this for yourself, your own businesses, and you also have coached or advised other entrepreneurs. Do you think there's an opportunity for people to not only do this for their own business, but to package this in a way and then to approach other companies to be like, listen, your marketing's off. Here's...
It's funny you ask this because I've just done it. I've just built all of my businesses off of organic marketing and building customer lists and deep relationships. That's just what I've done unconsciously. But that's not how everybody builds businesses. So that's a skill set and a system that I can package and plug into just about any business. So if you've got an agency, there's probably some stuff that you're doing unconsciously that's working really well for you and clients. And sometimes you need a few years of reps to be able to be aware of what those are. But as you progress through your career, you develop them along the way. And we so often want to jump to the hot thing. Like, I figured out this thing on AI, or I figured out this thing with social media marketing. But I think after a couple of years of doing it for yourself or for clients, those are where the long-term systems and processes that can be plugged into any business have enough staying power where you can get equity in that company, or you can get a really big consulting fee for walking into that business and implementing those systems.
I've heard you talk about an influencer marketing strategy that I thought was genius. You were describing, I think it was like a high protein, low carb type, low sugar snack. And rather than giving the influencer a cash deal, you were an investor in this company and then you gave the influencer minority equity shares.
When we're thinking about enterprise value, and that is our guiding light, then our job as entrepreneurs or founders is to make that pie as big as possible. It's not to control as much of the slice as possible. Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they all own a minority amount of their companies, and they're doing just fine. They're going to be okay. So I invested in a company called Sinless Snacks, and they sell high protein, low sugar snacks. So we just launched an oatmeal cream pie. We have a Rice Krispie treat. They're delicious. They're higher protein, very low sugar, like 1-ish gram. And there is an influencer in the keto space. He's like the one still relevant keto influencer in the space. It's like, this is the guy who's still growing in this space. He has millions of followers. And he happened to read my book, and we built a genuine friendship. And I went to him with a proposal that I wanted to give him shares in Sinless Snacks. Yes, I could pay him his sponsorship fee. Yes, I could rent his audience that he spent years building, but no one likes that. If I'm a shareholder in Dr. Pepper, which I'm not, but it actually is an interesting investment right now. I actually am tracking Dr. Pepper as a stock. Yeah. If I was an equity owner, I might be like, have you tried the strawberries and cream Dr. Pepper Zero? It's delicious. And I was at the factory when they were developing this, and we went through I would have a completely different amount of conviction and story about promoting my strawberries and cream Diet Dr. Pepper. So with this influencer, it was the same thing. I want him to have ownership over believing in this company. It has to be genuine. If he doesn't believe in it, I don't want him to take the deal. And here's how we structured it to be win-win-win across the board. We looked at what he would normally make from a sponsorship, and we said, okay, we will pay you this in shares of the company. But the minute you sign this deal, these shares are worth twice as much. Because if we value the company at $1 million, and then we bring on this influencer who has millions of followers, we tomorrow could go raise capital at least a $2 million valuation, probably more like a 4 or a 5. So bringing him onto the cap table makes it much more likely that we can raise capital at a better valuation. So what has that done for me? Well, I haven't made any money, but my enterprise value has just skyrocketed in a way that could not happen by just doubling sales. So having him on the cap table dramatically raises his net worth. It raises my net worth. And it also makes the partnership more likely to be successful because he's got ownership in the development of that product and the success of that brand. It's also going to give us a different perspective on what products the audience is going to like. So it's good for the customers as well. It's going to allow us to drive up scale faster so we can reduce costs and pass that on to the customer. So it's just win-win across the board. That would not be possible if we were just paying an influencer for exposure.
I interviewed Marshall Haas on the same channel. He said the number one cheat code in business he learned was partnering with influencers who actually genuinely used the product. And he had a nice exit in that company as well. And you're saying the exact same thing. Where my brain goes is I wonder if there's also an opportunity to be the person that connects influencers to brands for these types. Because there's traditional brand deals of what you're talking about, of just the ad reads that nobody likes. And then there's this win-win-win that everyone would love.
Yeah, if you know a lot, buy low on influencers right now. Like, influencers are going to have a hard time for the next couple of years. I would buy low on them. So if you know a lot of those influencers, and even more so, if you can help them build communities around their influence, then you could absolutely broker deals or take equity pieces, bringing that over to other businesses that want that connection with those influence.
Questions I wanted to ask you. You see all these entrepreneurs go through the phases of your book. Like, what are the traps you see where entrepreneurs get stuck?
The biggest one is trying to take money off the table too early. A lot of entrepreneurs get into the game because they're trying to solve a money problem. And so they start a business, which is kind of like having a kid so that you can have more free time. And starting a business to make money for a while it's going to sop up a lot of your capital. And the business needs the money more than you do. And there are times that I have an entrepreneur going through the process and they're at $50K a month in sales. And 6 months prior, $50,000 a month sounded like so much money. And so they want to take money off the table, but they're tying it up in more inventory and they're still testing 3 different agencies and they're experimenting with some things that they probably could cut and they shouldn't. And so they're still in that exploratory phase. And the minute they take money off the table, their optionality just goes down. And I recommend not taking any money off the table until you're at least $1 million. And when you're at $1 million, even if your profit margins are only 15%, which would be low, okay, like now we've got some margin where we can pay ourselves. But I think that the revenue metric and using that as a justification to take money off the table is a trap. The other trap, I feel like everybody can relate to this, is likes and views and comments and ego metrics that don't result in customers. Short form content is so great for exposure. It's so great for traffic. It's so great to get your name out there, but it's terrible for getting customers. Most influencers are broke. There's a reason why they want to do partnerships with brands. They don't know how to turn their attention into cash. And it's so tempting to prioritize this many views or this many likes, but those don't result in customers. And you can spend a lot of time and energy just trying to get likes and views that never go anywhere. I think it is very freeing to realize that if you have good processes for treating people well, turning them into leads, giving them a good experience, and turning them into customers. You don't need many views or likes in order to get a lot of customers. You need a few hundred and you're in business. So it starts not with the exposure, but the depth at which you are going to connect with the few leads you've got. So anybody can put up a piece of content and get 6 views. Do you have processes to treat those 6 views really well so that they're likely to turn into customers? Now, when you go get 500 views, it's profitable. That's the kind of stuff that grows a business. So that's the other trap is believing that these ego metrics drive growth. They don't. But the growth processes that you plug into that make it possible so that even if you're only getting a fraction of the views you think you should be getting, you can have a really successful business. Man, my audience is small. Like, this is a big podcast I'm doing right now. You know, like I do not have a lot of pull. I'm no Oprah, but I've built a multi-million-dollar business from it. I average like 10,000 views on a video. And I've been doing it for like 15 years. Like, I must suck. But I know most of my customers by name. You come to my event and I can tell you something about their business. Now, that's not infinitely scalable, but I believe that in the long term, over 10 years, that because of that, we can handle growth. If I go to 1 million subscribers tomorrow, I don't know that we can handle it. I don't know that it would be good for the business. But as we continue to grow and build the ability to maintain that connection with our people, now we can handle that growth. And if you can take that same mindset into an agency or a physical product brand or a dentist office, first of all, you got way more staying power. But second, you can also handle the growth that will come from the hacky things that we love to nerd out about.
Yeah, and there's also different types of people too. A lot of people who maybe want to be creators, they start to film and they think, what is interesting that I could talk about? Your route, as well as other very successful entrepreneurs, have been like, I'm just going to do interesting things off camera on my own in my businesses. And then all of a sudden you show up on camera, you have all these amazing stories and real tactics. You literally wrote a book that Gary Vee is on the cover of as well. But my observation is for people to do this, just nail the basics. Like you're talking about you actually did an interview with Captain Sinbad. Like, this was a few years ago on your channel. It's really good. The title says parentheses masterclass. It was a masterclass, and you were sharing just basic business principles that were obvious to you. You even said in the thing, you did no prep for it. You're just talking to him, figuring out his goals with it. And the amount of value that you added to him in an hour call was insane. And some of the things that you're talking about are just like very basic, like don't overcomplicate it. Have a really compelling offer, drive to an email, and then, sell something that's aligned. Looking back, I'm sure you've had that conversation with a lot of either creators or entrepreneurs. What would you say are like the bare bones 80-20 of how to create something even with the small audience and that starts to scale?
Well, first of all, are you collecting data from the people you want to do business with? And by data, I mean, like, are you getting their email address? Are you getting their phone number? Are you getting a way to contact them? Because if you don't use content to generate leads, then all you're doing is getting attention. And everybody thinks they want attention until they get attention. What you really want is leads. And then do you have a way to convert those leads? If we can just address, hey, how are we getting leads and how are we treating those leads? Oh, we're so much better off because now we can go play and we can create content. But if we do the attention piece first, then we're always guessing, what am I going to talk about today? Like, what's the thing what's trendy right now that's going to get attention? But if I know how I'm going to get leads and who my best leads are, and I know that they're going to be treated really well, then I can just go talk to those people and I'm always going to get leads. Always. The other thing that I would add to that is we get so obsessed with platforms. Like, it's TikTok right now, but do you remember Clubhouse? You remember, like, everybody needs to be on Clubhouse and people, like, they're going to do a raise. It's going to be the big thing. And Clubhouse was cool. I liked Clubhouse. Never use it anymore. It went away. I can't even tell you why it went away, but it went away. We get so obsessed with platform and we underemphasize the things that we would just naturally do for a long time. I mean, if you put a microphone in front of me, I will talk. I will talk for the next 10 years, regardless if anybody is listening. And I will do that regardless of what happens. So I should probably have a podcast. Some people are really good at the written word. They should be writing all the time, and they should not care about short form videos. And some people are really attractive. They should probably do short form content. Yeah, like what you're gonna do anyway, milk that. I think the one area where I disagree with Gary Vaynerchuk is that you should be everywhere. I think that is an expensive distraction for a lot of entrepreneurs, because everywhere is really nowhere. I know that I'm going to do long form content for a long time, and I know I'm going to write for a long time, so I should maximize those. And I don't need to waste my time trying to be a social media star. It's actually counterproductive for me. Start with what you're going to do forever anyway, and that might be like what you saw with Captain Sinbad, doing consultations and recording them and posting them, because I get juice, I get the spark out of implementing my skill set into someone else's business. And it turns out some other people watch that and want to do business with me because they saw it work. I could do that for free. That's fun. If I try to make it the business, it sucks. But if I do it just because that's where my energy is, then I can make the business out of it. So we start with what we're going to do anyway in the content world. And then we have to have a process for turning that into leads and then customers. You do those two things, content marketing is going to be very, very successful for you.
This is, okay, I'm going to make this really personal to me because I love where you're going here. And just a real example in my life right now is at least once a month, sometimes more than that, I'll get a text from somebody either asking for them to sit down with me just to discuss a big decision that they have with their career, or an intro asking about like systems, process, AI stuff, automations, those sort of things. Isaac, our videographer, just introed me to another business owner who has like 15 employees and needs like processes and systems in place. So he made an intro to me. I had a great conversation with him. From your perspective, to me, I have endless energy on that. Like, I love that. You saw the research doc. I love that stuff. And it's not necessarily because I think I'm a genius. I just think self-distancing is a real thing. Of you could explain someone could explain their problems to someone else, and it's just like, oh, well, have you tried X, Y, or Z?
Yeah.
Like, you go do that. And so I think that is part of it. And then also it's just like been doing it for a while, can spot some things. What I'm unsure about is this a business? Do I start a consulting business, or do I just create content around that? Like, how do you see it?
So here's your play. Your play is to set up a simple page for your newsletter and insights. And you call it, operational excellence. Don't use, that was a terrible name. Like, don't use that copy, right? But you come up with a name for your own insights where you're going to be sharing what's interesting to you. And at least once a week, you do a wrap up of, this is an AI tool I find really interesting. Here's a conversation that I like. Here's a podcast that I liked. Here is something interesting that happened. You just do a wrap up of some of your insights at least once a week.
I guess, so I'm actually doing that. I call it making connections. I've done that once a week for 3 years, and compressed 3-minute insights, usually about psychology or business, sometimes like an AI tool or something that I like.
And do you have effortless energy for that?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I would take the topics that come up and I would make either long or short form content about them. And in every single one say, and in this week's edition of the newsletter, I'm going to be talking about this, 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 and this. If you want it, feel free to subscribe. And now every time you make a piece of content, it's creating more leads.
Yeah.
And so what you get there is you're dipping into that endless energy reserve in 2 different modalities. And the content is going to be your exposure. The newsletter is going to be where you get your business. Now you have consulting leads. If you launch a physical products brand, you've got people who want to invest in it. That investment in just that bare bones structure is how I start any project. I want to grow my supplement brand. All right, basic lead capture form. Now let's throw some attention to it so that we get the right people reading our stuff. I want to launch a new product, put up a waiting list page, start talking about it to my audience. That is always how it starts. And I'm always surprised at who comes out of the woodwork when you do this. Mm-hmm. I'm always surprised with the person who says, I really liked X, Y, and Z. I had no idea you were paying attention. And it's so interesting with Instagram now because you can see who watches your stories. And I'm like, that person, like there's my my favorite baseball team is the Cleveland Guardians. I'm a huge Cleveland baseball fan. And we had a center fielder named Miles Straw. We traded Phil Maton for him. And obviously I'm a nerd. Like, I know how we transacted for Miles Straw. And he never really broke out with the team, but I was rooting so hard for him. And I sent him a couple DMs just because he got traded to the Blue Jays, and he's breaking out. I'm like, I'm so rooting for you this year. And he watches my stories. I'm like, God damn it, Miles Straw follows my work. So I'm always surprised at who comes out of the woodwork and just finds your work interesting, and then hires you for that consulting gig, hires you to be their agency, buys your supplements and leaves you a review. It's just stunning to me who comes out of the woodwork to support you.
I'm really glad I asked that question just to make it more specific. And for anybody watching this, I'm noticing how you didn't say, oh, is there a really big opportunity there for you to do X, Y? You go, do you have endless energy for that? And that goes back to your step one in the book, is just like, figure out the who, not the what, and start to put things out there, start the community, start to create that content.
And I don't want to make that about finding your passion, because I think that's such a useless question and pursuit. Like, find your purpose, find your passion. Like, it's so worthless and such a useless question. But where you have energy, that is an indication of what you're going to stick to. And if you can do things from that place, you will get opportunities that match that place. For example, if Miles Straw texts me tomorrow and is like, I want to start a brand, done. Mm-hmm. There's no reason or monetary value there except for the fact that I like brands and I like baseball. Let's go.
Yeah.
And out of that place, I will show up to the next content shoot with more energy. You know, like, just to make this personal, a real struggle point of mine is I hate working alone at a computer. And I've struggled with depression for as long as I can remember. And I know how to make it happen. Put me in my house alone in the office with my laptop with a to-do list. In 6 hours, guarantee you I'll be depressed. And I will question my life's purpose. And I'll wondering, like, what am I doing here? And I will be miserable for a day and a half. And then inevitably I will give up on whatever I'm working on. I will go play pickleball with my friends. They will ask me a question about business and I come alive. And then I go back to that exact same to-do list. I'm like, oh, no problem. And it's done. This is a recurring problem in my life that I wish there was just a magic wand or a magic pill that would solve. But what I have sort of come around to is that I have to say yes to the things that give me energy. I don't need to journal about what my passion is and figure it out. I need to say yes to the podcast interview. I need to say yes to the consulting call. I need to say yes to the phone call. And those things don't monetize right away. I need to do them for my own energy, because if I have that energy, I'll find more of those opportunities and I will show up to work better. And the things that currently take up 80% of my time will still get done, but only take up 20% of my time. And I don't know if every entrepreneur goes through that, but I think there is a real magic to just following the energy. And if you've got endless energy for something, lean into that, because that will carry over into all of your other pursuits.
Totally agree. If someone's watching this like, well, I don't know what gives me energy, I'm kind of stuck in this job, or something really helpful for me was Cal Newport's. He says, you don't find your passion, you develop your passion. And similar to what you're saying here, maybe you don't know what that thing is that fully energizes you. What has been helpful for me is just to frame these as small experiments. And so I didn't start out knowing about AI tools and automations. In fact, I felt overwhelmed by it, but I set up a couple of them, and now it's like really helpful for me. I've taught it to other people and they're kind of blown away. All of a sudden I have endless energy for it, right? And so if I would have been like, oh, I need to be an AI expert, no energy, right. That's too big. And so as a small experiment, let's come up with a couple prompts that we use for these YouTube videos for our titles and thumbnails. And maybe that leads to something, maybe it doesn't, then you go to the next thing.
So I don't know if this is true for everyone, but I do think it's true for hard charging men. We really get excited when we're of value to another person. So where we have competence is often where we have energy. And unfortunately, for at least a part of your life, you get those indicators from other people. The word ego to me is just how we define our belonging in the group. And we do get those indicators from other people. These can be indicators for where we are talented, where we are entertaining, or where we have skill. Follow that and get that indication from other people and just do more of those things. I think that's where it develops. It doesn't develop by looking inside and figuring out who we are. We don't know who we are. No one knows who they are. Anyone who knows who they are has usually gone through work of peeling back the layers and just discovering who they are not until whatever's left is there. None of us know who we are. We're becoming something that is of service to another group of people. That's where I think we find energy, at least as hard charging men. And so when we know where we're providing a lot of value, that feels good. We wake up ready to do that. We get excited about it. We get an edge over that. We see what other people can't. Those are the indications that we want to follow.
So I've heard you talk a lot about building businesses, but also investing the profits. Can you break down what your investments look like?
Well, up until a few years ago, my investment strategy was basically make my money in business and then give it away to Ponzi schemes. So just how can I blow this money with dumb investments as quickly as possible? And as a result, I had to be humbled enough to go admit that I didn't know anything about investing. And I relearned and questioned my assumptions because I had proven to myself that I'm an idiot. And after proving to myself that I'm an idiot, now you're humble enough to go learn something again or for the first time. And for me, it was coming to the realization that I make my money in business and my investment strategy, yes, it will compound into probably hundreds of millions of dollars, but its purpose is to set me free to go kill it in business. And oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we make our money being ahead of the curve. And so we make a bet and we get paid for it. And we take that same mentality over into investing. And we just know that that meme coin is going to be the meme coin that takes off. And this is where we lose our shirts. We take that same mindset that makes us successful as an entrepreneur and we try to port it over into being a successful investor. What I've learned for myself or concluded for myself is that my investments should be more boring than my business, but exciting enough to keep me interested. So I have my strategy and I'd be happy to go through exactly how I invest, how much I invest, what that $1 billion plan looks like. But it's important to note that the whole purpose of having that investment plan is so that I can say, I have my $100 million. I have my multi-$100 million plan. Now I can just go show up and kill it in business. That's the purpose of that. It's not to have the best return. It's not to be right. It's not to predict the next big thing. It is to set me free to go kill it in business. And when I can combine killing it in business with a thoughtful investment strategy, you're in striking distance of being one of the richest people in history.
Yeah, I've seen you share on your LinkedIn some of your monthly investments and how you look at index funds versus more risky assets or investments. Can you just break down how you look at it?
My goal has always been, I want to be worth at least $100 million. And I was always going to do that in business. But I put this pressure on myself to have a $100 million idea. And that made me question, is this the $100 million idea? Is this the right one? Should I force this one to become the $100 million idea? That's dumb. So I finally sat down and ran the numbers of what if I didn't have to just generate $100 million? Like maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. What if I just had to invest consistently for the rest of my life and the S&P 500, the most boring way to invest possible, it just performed at its average? What would I need to generate cash flow wise to invest for me to become more than $100 million? Now, let me ask you this. If I invest consistently for the rest of my life, give it 40 years into the S&P 500, how much do I need to invest in order for it to become worth $100 million?
I have no idea, but I know the power of compounding is big. Let's call it like $100K a month.
It's about $150,000 a year.
Okay. So I kind of ruined your exercise.
No, you said $100K a month.
Yeah. Well, I guess no, that is the point.
So most people say something like that.
Yeah.
Some people say like $1 million a year. It's $150,000.
Yeah. That's
So
the
if
point.
all that ever happens is that I generate $150,000 a year that I can invest into the S&P 500 index, then mathematically that compounds into $100 million. Now it takes 40 years. No one wants to wait 40 years. But all of a sudden I went, I don't have to kill it today. I don't have to kill it this week. I don't have to have my $100 million idea right now. I need to have a business that profits at least $150,000 a year. Okay. Like any business can profit $150,000 a year. And all of a sudden it was de-stressed. I have my $100 million plan. So I require of myself that I have to invest at least $150,000 a year into boring long-term index funds that I will never touch. And those are my guardrails for making stupid decisions, because everyone thinks they're not going to be the person that makes the stupid decision. But I thought that, and I was wrong. And I put it into Ponzi schemes and dumb investments and things that went to zero. So now, as a protection mechanism for my own stupidity, I have to do the boring plan first.
So if somebody realizes for themselves that they don't want to do that research and they don't have any tactical or knowledge about it.
Just put in a boring long-term stuff that is never going to go to zero, that you never have to think about. You're just betting on the American economy.
And set it and forget it. Just have that automatically go in monthly.
Never. I mean, if you only put in $500 a month into S&P 500, that compounds into $1 million over 30 years.
I've heard you talk about the book Ready, Fire, Aim. And can you share what you learned in that book and then any other highly recommended books for entrepreneurs?
You could probably sum up most of what I know about business from Ready, Fire, Aim, The One Thing, and The Slight Edge. Those 3 books. The Slight Edge is about compounding returns. They're easy to do. The things that create compounding returns are easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. It is easy to eat healthy. It is also easy not to eat healthy. It is easy to work out. It's easy not to work out. But if you do the things that compound in a positive way, that is the slight edge. It's a thing that compounds for a very long time. This is true in every area of life. It is easy to greet your wife with a kiss, and it's easy to not greet your wife with a kiss. But the compounding results of that decision every day could create a very different outcome. Again, it's true in business and how you treat people, how you treat customers. The second is the one thing. That is lining up the most important domino that makes other things easier or unnecessary. If you line up the most important thing and combine it with the slight edge, that's everything that I believe about compounding returns. You do the right thing for a very long time, it's kind of hard to strike out. It's kind of hard to not have opportunities thrown your way if you consistently do the right thing, do the most important thing, and do it over a very long period of time. Something good is going to happen from doing that. And then Ready, Fire, Aim, what I took from that was that the money is made after you acquire the customers. And I don't know that he explicitly says this in the book, but the real value of building a company with staying power is after you get the first group of customers and then you start launching additional products to them. This is where I put together that idea of it takes a long time to build one road, to get one car on the road. But once you're there, you can put lots of cars on the road. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs will try this product and then this product and this product and then this product, and they're scattered all over the place. They never build the road. But if you build the road to getting consistent sales, then those systems can be brought over to other products as well.
Are there any, before we wrap up, are there any specific like tools or resources or AI prompts or any specific resources that you use or that your team uses that you think would be helpful for people?
I journal a lot. The one tool that I probably get the most value from is Claude AI. I am noticing a trend with people using ChatGPT to think, and I'm a little bit worried about this. I have noticed a couple people, I won't say they're on my team, but I've noticed a couple people who will use AI to think for them. And it's obvious because now I can't go to that person for the thoughtful analysis. They're using ChatGPT and just throwing it into something. So what I will do instead is I use Claude, which is better for writing. And I will sometimes take my research from ChatGPT, bring that over into Claude, and then use it as my editor. And it helps me think through something deeper. But more importantly, it puts it into a form that is easier to communicate to someone else. It feels much more of a natural form of communication than just taking the AI and throwing it over there. That is probably the tool that I use most often that I have found to be really helpful.
Is there any final message that you want to leave the viewers with, either a challenge to go do for themselves or any words of wisdom?
Business is all about people. And it's so easy to get caught up in the numbers and the likes and the comments and the keyboard warriors and the haters and the fans. At the end of the day, it's just people behind all that. And people are flawed and people are hurting and people have desires and everybody's going through something. And every one of those clicks, every one of those customers is a person with a network and an experience and with impact. And the more that you can just think about the nitty-gritty people behind every one of those interactions, I just think that makes you a better entrepreneur. And when we're thinking about the likes and the shares and the notoriety, we're usually thinking about ourselves. We're not thinking about the person on the other side of that. And by the way, I only know this because I struggle with this myself. Like, I love the admiration that I get from social media. I love battling the haters back and forth. Like, I am that kind of troll who will screenshot your prediction and bring it back 4 years later and tell you that you're wrong. Like, I am flawed and fall into it too. But I am my most unhappy when I am thinking about what do I need and what can I get from the marketplace to give myself. And I am the happiest when I think about where do I have excess value that I can create for other people. And that also happens to be where business grows the most. I think the billionaire class gets such a bad rap today because people assume that they must be filling their own void by taking from the marketplace. That judgment is other people projecting their own stuff into the world. They're saying, I don't have enough money, so I will go into the marketplace and extract, and that must be what all these billionaires are doing too. When in reality, yes, some people inherited it. Yes, there are some assholes, but the vast majority of people who get fabulously wealthy have something that is much bigger than themselves that they kept feeding for a very long time that was a net positive for society. And so I think the trick that, or at least the lesson that life wants to teach me in this chapter of my life is the less I think about myself, the happier I am. And the less that I try to extract, the more that I am given. And I hope I've learned that lesson. I probably haven't, and we'll probably have to learn that for some more time. But I think that might be the secret to success.
If people want to learn more from you, where should they check you out?
The best way would be just grab a copy of my book. It's the most affordable, simplest way for somebody to understand how I think about building successful businesses. And if they want to go deeper, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, and my website's capitalism.com.
Ryan Moran, thank you so much, man.
Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Good to see you.